live.
Go live.
We're live. We're
We're
live.
live. Welcome back to the Talking Average Fitness Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam Burns. I'm joined, as always, by the only human who has won the Real Life Tetris 3D Championships 7 years running, Mr. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, Sam. How are you?
I'm doing great. I have rain barrels.
You have rain barrels.
I
That
have
is that
rain
is true.
barrels.
I don't
Peak
have rain barrels.
peak dad mode. Our outing for the morning was taking our minivan and going to get rain barrels so we can do passive water capture.
Listen, it's the little things in life, man. As you get older and as life becomes more lifey, you're
Mm-hmm.
like, it's just the little things.
As
One
life
of the
lifes.
most exciting days, was when I was coaching at CrossFit Boston and we like the vacuum we had was terrible and it was old and it was broken. So I just ordered a new one. And when that new like industrial
Yeah.
strength
Backpack
vacuum came in,
style.
oh yeah, when that thing came in and it boom, the box arrived and I open it up and there's the brand new vacuum.
Yeah.
That was the best day ever. I
Yeah.
vacuumed the gym every day just for fun. So I'm like, I have a new fucking vacuum.
Right.
Um, this just a few weeks ago, we were running short on markers. We had just like a bunch of the black ones, which I don't trust people with for
Sure.
many
Yep.
reasons. If you're
Yep.
a coach, you understand why.
Yes.
And then a couple like red and blue ones. We didn't like have any colors. And so I went on Amazon, most magical place in the world, and ordered a bunch of like the color packs. And when all those markers came in, it was like a 5-year-old on Christmas morning. I was like, this is the best day ever. And everybody that walks through the door is going to PR something today because it's the best
Yes.
day ever. Because now we
Absolutely.
have colorful markers.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of Amazon, so when we lived down in Massachusetts, in Dedham, there was an Amazon Prime fulfillment center. And so if you lived in and around the Dedham, Massachusetts area, your Prime shipping was on fire. It was next day. Sometimes it was same day.
same day. Just
Yeah. And if you're an Amazon devotee, like billions of people are, like that's a big deal. When we moved up to Maine, we lost that. And it's not like we went back down to baseline. We went like below baseline. So our prime delivery was like 5 days. And that's, which is crap to say because like 10 years ago, you'd be lucky to get 5 days on any kind of shipping. Well, apparently they must have figured out a fucking route or somewhere or built another fulfillment center because our prime shipping has gone from 5 days back to 2 days.
There we
And
go.
yeah, and like no announcement, just like all of a sudden has changed. Which speaking of figuring out route stuff, have you seen that clip floating around of that guy on the Joe Rogan podcast talking about the Tokyo subway system?
No, I see so many clips of Joe Rogan
I
things. Some
know.
of them is promoting like eat this mushroom and you'll be a smarter human, which
Yeah.
that's a whole rabbit hole in itself.
Yeah.
It's like eat this mushroom, and then the other one is like David Goggins being like, if you don't sleep and don't drink water, you'll be a human weapon.
Right.
Run 74 miles a day if you're not soft, and
Blow
like
your knees out.
just David Goggins being David Goggins.
Right.
Like there's so many clips of Joe Rogan's podcast. I haven't seen that one. No.
So what they did is slime, it was talking about slime mold, like fungus. And
Okay.
what the Japanese did is they noticed that like slime molds were very efficient, and some architect got this idea where they laid out all of the major, like a map of Tokyo, right? And they laid out all of the major stops in the Tokyo subway system with like bits of like oats or a food source of some kind. And then they, squirt down the slime mold, and the slime mold does what it does, and it spreads out and it finds the food and it starts consuming, right? Well, after it initially spreads, then it kind of retracts. And what it's left with is an incredibly efficient ordering and like branch system to get all the nutrients back to the center of the host, right? And so the theory is that the way the slime mold organized itself in terms of like connecting all of these nodes is more efficient than the way the humans designed the Tokyo subway system. And so they were going to redo it to like optimize the way the slime mold said. Because if they
Wow.
could get like 4% optimization without changing the trains, it would be worth the time investment.
Oh yeah, because that like 4% on that scale would be massive,
right?
you
Yeah,
know?
I mean, you're moving
Um,
millions of human beings. They literally shove them into the trains like cattle cars. So like
yeah,
4% more humans with less shoving.
yeah. They should do that with like every single road in the Boston area because that's just if you've ever driven in the Boston area and you're like you have the GPS on it goes turn right and you look up and you go there's four fucking rights.
Yeah.
Which
Which
right do I take? So you're
so
like you got a 25% chance you're gonna get it right. If you get it wrong, like you're supposed to take the third right, you take a second right, you're in Michigan. It doesn't
yeah.
matter if you've ended up somewhere 3 states over. It what the fuck? Because there is
Yeah.
no turnaround. Oh, it's the worst and
So
terrible.
so real quick thing in so Massachusetts, if you've lived in the Boston area, you know this intrinsically, and you know it probably because you know that like Boston is ancient. It's older than America. And so
Hmm.
the way it was built and constructed was like this organic development. It's the spiderweb design rather than grid system, which came about, basically everything west of the Mississippi is grid system.
Hmm.
I worked for a decade in the oil and gas industry. And part of the work that I did was going out and working with companies to negotiate with landowners to upgrade existing natural gas pipeline systems. So it is a statistical fact that underground transportation of natural gas is the safest way to do things, right? Um, Safer than train, plane, boat, or over land. Well, America isn't using less natural gas. So the systems that have been in place and working fine for many, many years are not big enough. They are physically not wide enough to transport the volume of natural gas that is being consumed, which is why, especially in New England, every winter, you end up with like rising electricity costs because your electrical system is powered by turbines which burn natural gas to spin and create energy. So when they have to ship electricity in, they side ship it from like other regions. There's an additional cost to that. That cost is passed on to the consumer. You could reduce that if you just increased the capacity of the natural gas system. People in New England will go out of their way to inconvenience themselves, the company, and every other human in a 10-block radius to avoid 6 months of construction for a project like that. Nobody wants to see things that are ugly and broken, even if they're going to be better after. And like they can't
Nope.
see. It's like the marshmallow test. You ever seen the marshmallow test?
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty. Yeah, the
The
one with the one
kids
with
and
the
they,
kids, right? That
yeah,
like they
exactly.
don't touch this one if you don't touch it. Like just don't touch it, and then
Well,
they don't know that they're. Yeah,
well,
I
so
know
so
the.
the deal is if they don't eat it for
Yeah,
a 5 minute window, they get two marshmallows.
right,
And so what they're demonstrating is that like kids don't understand the concept of the future. And
right.
I feel like at an industrial scale, um, or not industrial, at an infrastructure scale,
Hmm.
mobs revert to like 5 year olds in terms of like future viewing capacity. Like
Yep.
they're just so caught up in the now they can't see past the end
Yeah.
of it. But that's neither here nor there.
I
We
will say though, when there's any like road construction or any sort of construction, they're like just ruin everything. I mean, for the past two years, the every summer the
Yeah,
Sumner Tunnel
yeah,
is closed. They like fully closed down. I don't know what they're doing. I
yeah.
don't have to travel that way because I don't live in that region, but I can imagine that that's quite annoying for the people
Mm,
that are there, and they're like, this is the way I do my life every day.
yeah.
And just every summer you're shutting it down for I don't know if they there was a reason to be like, hey, we're building this or we're improving that. If they're just like, that's just closed. Get around it. It's like,
Infrastructure
oh,
is
all right.
infrastructure is some of the hardest stuff to upgrade because it's never not being used. And
Right.
so they've got very limited windows of time when people can do things. And so the progress
Hmm.
that they make every single day is fucking glacial.
Yeah.
It's and like
It's insane.
oh oh and the first 2 hours are them like cracking open a hole so they can do maybe 6 hours of work overnight, maybe,
Hmm.
and then they've got to seal it back up. Like they put a plate down, they tar the plate, like it's got to be like able to handle traffic. And so
Right.
they have to like unfuck their shit every night just to fuck it up later.
Like, all right, I gotta dig back up the hole again. All
Like, how
right, gotta make the
frustrating must
hole
that?
again.
Yeah, like I just sealed this hole 8 hours ago, and I've got to unseal this hole.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we actually had a thing that we were going to talk about.
Yeah. Welcome to the Talking Average Fitness podcast, where we talk about the infrastructure of society.
Right. Obviously, our interests are wide ranging and varied,
Yes.
like our fitness.
We've already
So
been established as nerds, so
we really have. This shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. Okay, so
no.
the thing that we want to talk about today, and this is going to be me. I'm really looking forward to this actually because I get to shut the fuck up. I get to put Kevin in the hot seat. And the reason I get to do this is because I recognize that Kevin is better at this than I am. Like so what we're talking about here is targeting your weaknesses. And specifically, what's the message you sent? It was,
I don't know how to target your weaknesses without doing 17 different auxiliary
yes,
programs.
yes, exactly. And if you've been CrossFitting a while, you've probably found yourself in possession of a PDF or two or three. Yeah. Or like somewhere
Or
between
7.
1 and 3 $5 to $25 monthly subscriptions that provide you access to various programs. And like you forget about it for 6 months or a year and a half,
Yep.
and then you come back
Yep.
and you're like, who the fuck is this? $20 every month? Damn.
Yeah.
So I think we do that because we recognize we have weaknesses, right? Because
Yep.
God forbid we be human and be perfect. And so in our recognizing of our weaknesses, we see some piece of advertising.
Yep.
Or like typically Instagram is very common. I see an athlete who I geek out over, or a brand, and they offer a program, and you're like, it's that Futurama bit with Fry, and he's like, "Shut up and take my money."
Yep.
And so you punch the button on it, and you get it, and you get the PDF, and you're like, "This is amazing." And then you realize that squatting 3 days in a row is brutal, and you end up messed up for 3 days, and then you forget about it.
Yep.
And 6 months goes by, and you've not done anything with that program. But you had a goal and a well-meaning intention of addressing weaknesses, right?
Yep.
And you actually, I understand this at a analytical and like theoretical level, and I know I could do this kind of thing, but you've got a lot more practice writing programs like this than I do.
Yep.
So I'm just gonna be like the worst customer ever.
Okay.
And I've got you captive. You want my money, but I'm going to make you work for it. That's how we're
Okay.
gonna go
Okay.
about this.
Great.
So before we begin our little role play session, when we talk about like targeting weaknesses, in your experience, do people come in having a good idea actually about what their weaknesses are, or do you end up having to like have a discussion with them and like suss out what the real issue is?
Oh, this is such a great, you know, um, human beings as just
Great way to start.
just
Already
human
off to the
beings
races.
as a collective generally are not the best at objective self-assessment. That's really, really fucking hard to do.
Yeah.
And in the CrossFit space, we saw, it started out as like, well, Rich Froning just writes his own programming and he's winning the CrossFit Games. And everybody and their fucking mom was like, I'm just going to write my own programming. Well, guess what? Rich is an anomaly, and he understands himself at such an objective level that he knows how to target his own weaknesses. And Rich is one of the best programmers, specifically competitive CrossFit programmers in the world.
Yeah.
So he can do that. Rich writing programming for Rich works really well because he understands at an objective level his own weaknesses.
And then there's that willingness to follow through on whatever's on the whiteboard, regardless of how much he has eaten, has worked out, is tired, whatever. He's a unit.
To do that. But also, like, this happens with any programmer, right? You're like, hey, I need to work on this.
Yeah.
But you only write it or implement it in ways that seem interesting or fun to you.
Yeah.
It's like for example, I need to be better at pull-ups.
Okay.
Nobody's sitting around doing like strict pull-up negatives. They're like, I'm going to do 3 sets of 20 butterfly, and my butterfly looks like a fish seizing out of water, but I'm going to do it because this was going to make me. No one's doing like, arch and hollow drills on the
Right.
bar, learning to
Yeah.
control those shapes in space. They're like, I'm just going to get up there, fling myself around for 20 reps, and I'm
Right.
going to do that every day for 6 days, because then my biceps hurt and then I don't touch a pull-up bar for a while. It's the same
Right.
thing with muscle ups in the open. The 2 weeks prior to the open, everyone and their fucking mom's like, this is the year I'm getting my muscle up. You
Right.
got a strict pull up? No. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, homie. It ain't happening. But they're like, I want to get the muscle up. And then the muscle ups come in the open and they can't do them. They're frustrated. And after the open, for the next 2 weeks, this is a 6-week exercise. For 2 weeks, you're like, that's all the motivation I need. I'm going to start hammering my pulling and muscle up stuff because I'm going to get it next year. 2 weeks go by. I haven't seen you on the rings. And then the cycle repeats. You don't touch rings or muscle ups or anything. And then the next year, 2 weeks before the open, I got to get my muscle ups. So it's the one that, all coaches see and know and love. But I think especially, I want to talk about this today because CrossFit semifinals have just happened.
Yeah.
And people have the inspiration of, you see the athletes you follow, the athletes you like, you watch some incredible performances. Wow, they're doing that so amazing. I want to do
Ring,
that.
muscle up, strict
Yeah.
dip. Yep.
Oh yeah. Me and Jack did a workout that we incorporated that semifinals ring complex.
Yeah.
And Jack is a young athlete, young aspiring athlete as well. And so I'm like, I can lead him to not be a dingus like I was. And hopefully maybe he does something productive with his athletics. And we're going through, and I'm like,
there's a lot packed into that if you play it back real slow.
Oh yeah. And we're warming up for it, and I'm sitting there like, man, this is like going from the toes to ring to the muscle up was so hard because the kip is different. Or like the swing is like you're in different.
Colin would hop on your shit right there.
Yeah, I know. I know he would. That whatever. Colin can get fucked. And so Jack goes, well, are we gonna put on a vest? I was like, no. No,
you should have let him run with it. That was a missed opportunity.
So I did. So I sat there. I was like, because he had a vest ready, and he grabbed one for me. He's like, "You want a vest?" I was like, "No." He was like, "Why?" I was like, "Because I don't want to do that." That's right. I was like, Jack, how much do you weigh? He was like 160. I was like, all right, I'm 50 pounds heavier than you. I'm wearing 2 weight vests. Right. So you do your weight vest thing. And of course, after the first round, he takes the weight vest off. I'm like, yep, there it is. There it is. Anyways, when we see semifinals, we see all this cool stuff. I want to try that. I want to try this. And then, of course, this is the best thing for CrossFit Mayhem's marketing is there were 180 athletes at semifinals who are Mayhem athletes.
Were there? And really?
There were, or maybe more, but they're like 180 teams and or athletes. I mean, that were Mayhem athletes, and they follow Mayhem, they do it, they're supported by the brand, they fly the flag and the banner and the whole thing. And it's like, fuck, like that. They so far outrank any other company in terms of high level CrossFit competitive athletes. There's so many. I mean, that Mayhem had like 3 teams from just CrossFit Mayhem at semifinals. I think 2 of them qualified for the games, if not all 3. There's 2 CrossFit Mayhem teams from CrossFit Torian down in Australia. One of them qualified for the games. One of them was 1 spot out. Like they're just producing monsters. And so they put that out there. And I'm pretty sure I see a thing where they're like, hey, if you saw semifinals, you liked it, use code Jesus for 10% off your monthly membership.
Which we say in total jest and in no way.
100%. Yeah. In no way like making fun of it, like just just poking fun.
But jokingly, it was probably like Into the Storm or something like that.
Probably. Yeah.
Yes.
Something like that. And so people after semifinals, the games, the open have this like surge of motivation to want to work on things and be better and start to attack some weaknesses. And every time someone's like, I need to work on this, it's not a generally, it's not a this movement problem. It's a you need to be fitter problem. It's just you need to be fitter. Because if we're sitting there like, okay, I need to work on my weaknesses. Guess what?
Right.
For me, comparatively to a
Yeah.
semifinals athlete, I have to work on everything. And so this is where I got led astray as a younger athlete. It was like, okay, I want to be there. To
Right.
be there, I need to get better at everything. What's
Right.
the best way to get better at everything? I'm going to follow Cal Strength's weightlifting program, as well as CrossFit gymnastics programming, and I'm going to do some Hinshaw's aerobic capacity in there, and then might as well chuck some comp train stuff in there because they were big at the time. Like, let's
They
do
were
some
big.
comp train stuff.
They were
And
the mayhem 5 years ago,
exactly. And so it's like, I'm
8
going to
years
try
ago.
and
God, I'm old.
fuck, has it already been that long, man?
Is it not?
God.
Is it not
Did,
2019? Oh shit.
yeah, is it? Shit. Enter the time warp. Um, but so it's like you're like, I'm gonna mix all four of these programs. Guess what happens? You get injured. Nothing
Yeah.
happens because you're having two competing things. Because my weightlifting program is saying squat. We're doing
Yeah.
all these squats and snatches, and then the gymnastics program says we're doing pistols today. So I'm like, all right. And then the comp train workout is a heavy thruster ladder. All right. And then we're going to go run some 400-meter repeats until you puke for Hinshaw. And I'm like,
Yeah.
sick. Sounds like a great day of training.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, when my knees are broken and I can't walk up or down stairs,
Right.
it's, burnout happens that way. And it's like, if I'll give a whole lot of credit to the crew over at Misfit Athletics, because I think
Mhm.
they're a smart crew when it comes to competitive CrossFit, and they've been saying this forever. Like, you can't mix and match and mishmash all these different programs. Like, you need
Yeah.
one program that's comprehensive. If you want to go do a Smolov cycle,
Yeah.
amazing. It's good. You will put 50 pounds on your back squat as long as you eat enough, sleep enough, and you do the squatting. However, you don't do any other fitness aside from squatting. You roll out, you get up out of bed, you do your 10 by 3 at 97% of your best, and then you go back to sleep for the next 2 days. Like, that's how you do Smolov. And it's like, you will put 50 to, like, I've seen like 80 pounds on a back squat over the course of an
Right.
entire like 16-week Smolov program. If you follow the actual thing, not Smolov Junior, but the actual thing start to
Yeah.
finish,
Yeah. Yeah.
so much weight on your back squat. Your legs will be useless for anything else. You throw one thruster in there, you are broken. You have ruined the program. It's not. It's
Wow.
not a thing. It's so because it's just so much squatting, and the intensity is all on that. But I've seen people be like, they're CrossFitters, and they're like, I'm just going to run a Smolov cycle, and I'm like, you're what?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm just gonna do a Smolov cycle. Okay, like that, cool. Like, open gym times are here. Like, you can come. Oh, no, like, I'm still gonna take class. You fucking what?
Yeah. And they don't
And
know.
then no, because they don't know,
Yeah.
and because they're just like, oh, I need to get better at squatting.
Right.
I found it. If you Google squat cycle, I'm pretty sure Smolov is the first one that comes up because it's the most famous squat cycle
See, now I got to
known to
test
human
this.
being. Now you do have to test it. So just Google squat cycle. Tell me what the first Google hit is.
Liftvault.com, the 10 best squat programs and routines updated for 2023. And
Okay.
inside of that,
Yes.
there is the Kaizen 12-week squat, Russian squat routine,
Okay.
hatch squat, Greg Everett,
Yeah.
Smolov,
Yep.
yep, Brad
All those.
Gillingham.
Hatch is a good one. Hatch is probably one you could get away with as a CrossFitter if you're smart with your squatting volume in CrossFit. You can probably get away with Hatch. Because basically it's like front squat, back squat, or vice versa, back squat, front squat in the same session, but it's like 2 days per week as opposed to like 4 days per week with Smolov.
My hands down favorite is Russian squat. Um, and I like that it's broken out. It's a 6-week cycle,
Yep.
and it's volume work on the front end and strength work on the back end.
Yes,
So
it's a smart kind of progression toward, yeah, it kind of like, it's like a funnel. It like
yeah,
whittles things. Yeah, I get you.
yes,
I think my favorite, if I were to pick like hey, if you truly need to get stronger, you want to make a dent in the sport, you really want to, push to make things happen for you, and you just need to get generally stronger. You've got good snatch technique, good, clean and jerk technique and all that. You just need to get stronger with a barbell, and you want to layer it on top of your pre-existing CrossFit work. My favorite for that is probably Wendler's 531. Just because the volume is overall low. It's like Wendler went and found like the minimal effective dose.
Yeah.
He went and he completed the experiment. He did it.
Yes, he did.
Minimal effective dose for barbell training to get stronger. And again, it's a progression. Like it's
for sure.
It's not like, hey, 10 weeks, you're going to put 50 pounds on your squat. That's not what Wendler is. Wendler is like, hey, do this for 2 years.
Yeah.
And you're going to see a steady, consistent progression in your strength numbers. And so I like that. But I think when people come in and they're, to come back to your question, when they're like, okay, someone comes in, I need to work on this.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's a fitness problem. And when I say it's a fitness problem, I mean that just you have the technique to do the movement.
Right.
You just don't have the capacity to do as much of the movement as you want.
Right.
And that's just an overall capacity and fitness issue. You don't necessarily need to fix that by being like, I'm just going to do pull-ups every day.
Right.
But it's just every time this comes into how we target weaknesses, every time you have pull-ups show up in your programming, you focus on the pull-ups. That is your focus and focal point for the workout.
So there's a lot baked into that. And I want to try to summarize a lot of it as quickly as possible so that as we move forward in the questioning, it makes sense.
Yep.
So first of all, over-volumizing. And when we say over-volumizing, for example, I have lost track of the number of times I have heard athletes say, I'm going to get better at pull-ups. Cool. How are you going to do that? I'm going to do 3 sets of 20 butterfly. That's a horrible fucking idea. Because you're not actually improving anything. You're just doing more of the thing that you have just admitted that you're bad at, right?
Yep.
So when we say over-volumizing, that's what we're talking about here. And so then I have a goal, right? Is getting better at that goal going to be the magic key that unlocks the next level of fitness that I am looking to achieve or that I think I am capable of? And Kevin's answer is almost certainly not.
Probably not.
You could figure out a muscle up, but it's not like you're all of a sudden going to like cut your 30 muscle up for time workout in half. You know, you might knock it down by a little bit, but there's a capacity issue as well as a technique issue, right? And then we talk about capacity. We could talk about endurance. How many of them can you do over time versus strength? Could you do it before at all? If the answer is no, and now you can, that's a strength adaptation. So you've increased strength capacity. So most people, they think going into a program that the one thing that they need, or, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, they end up over volumizing themselves, or they think that they've got a good idea about what it is that they think they need at all. And the answer is do less better, not do more, right? Okay, so I've identified, you've twisted my arm as the customer. I've picked 2 things that I want to work at, right? I love my CrossFit classes. I come 5 days a week. My coach literally won't let me. They kick me out if I try to come more than 5 days. And I filed a class action lawsuit, but we still haven't resolved that yet. So I come to class 5 days a week.
Yep.
I want to get better at squatting because I like to squat. And I want to, let's keep it real simple. I want to get better at pull-ups, right? I can do a couple strict pull-ups. I can do a couple kipping. I can do a handful of butterfly, but I don't have the technique figured out. So my shit falls apart like after a handful of reps.
Gotcha.
So without going and doing my 5 days a week of CrossFit and doing a small off cycle and following specific gymnastic programming that, either of those programs ignore the fact that anything else exists.
Right.
How do I do this?
It's a great question.
Is it possible first? Is it possible? Yes or no?
1000%.
Okay, cool. So then how how do we how does a client or an
Yes.
athlete, assuming your CrossFit program is a well-rounded program, which in today's day and age is maybe a big assumption, but let's assume it's a well-rounded
Let's assume.
program,
Yep.
and yet I still have these things I want to work on, and it's within my capacity. I'm eating appropriately, I'm sleeping appropriately, which also are huge assumptions. Like,
Yep.
I'm trying to make this as easy as possible for Kevin. So
Yeah.
how, assuming all of those things, how do I make it work?
So the first thing that I would kind of ask you as a potential client who's seeking my help for, I want to be better at these things. We'll start with the squats. And you're like, I want to be better at squatting. I would ask you, what does getting better at squatting mean? What exactly about your squatting are you looking to improve?
I just love squatting. I'm already pretty good at squatting, and so I see no reason to not be better at squatting.
Okay. Um, so the first thing that I would kind of look at is, and again, I'm going to assume that you are one of my athletes. You come to my affiliate and so it's like I see you regularly.
Sure.
Like I know Sam comes to the 8:30 a.m. class and he crushes himself 5 days a week, and I'm the one that had to ask him to not come a sixth or seventh or eighth day that week. Um, so first order of business is making sure your movement pattern is as efficient as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So like there are some people that squat good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Do you squat perfectly? Because if not, you are wasting energy
Mm-hmm.
with shitty movement. So if there's something we can dial in technique and movement wise, that would be the
Mm-hmm.
first thing for me as a coach, seeing you as an athlete, like, hey, we need to fix this about your squat,
Sure.
movement wise.
Yep.
The second thing is for most CrossFitters, the sport is about capacity.
Yep.
You want to get better at squatting. You just want to be able to crush every squatting movement that comes up. You want to be able to overhead squat, wall ball thruster for days.
So really, it's hanging onto the bar or to the
Yeah.
kettlebell or the dumbbell or the
Yep.
wall ball for bigger sets.
For bigger sets.
That's the end result.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is if you do that, because people all want to nerd out about like, oh, well, I need to get stronger. Well, guess what? If you can go from, your max unbroken set of wall balls being 20 to your max unbroken set of wall balls being 50, guess what, homie?
Yeah.
Like your legs have gotten stronger.
For sure.
And whilst getting stronger, you've also increased your overall capacity.
Yeah.
So that would be kind of the answer for the squats. Like, okay, your technique's good. Like you're moving really well. You're efficient, hitting full range of motion as you're going through. My thing for you is every time we do squats, Sam,
Yeah.
I want you to pick a weight or a loading
Uh-huh.
that is going to allow you to break off big chunks. Let's use the wall ball for an example. We're doing sets of 50 and you're in the realm where you're like, I'm comfortable with sets of 15 to 20 is kind of like your comfort range. Awesome. Here's what I want you to do today, Sam. We're doing 3 rounds. It's 50 wall balls per round. I want you to do that in 30, 20. And if that means you go from a 20-pound ball to a 14-pound ball, that's great. But do your 30 and 20. Hang on to that wall ball. You're going to start to build some capacity there. Then the next time, okay, let's use the 14-pound ball. Let's try and do all sets of 50 unbroken or as close to unbroken as we can. You're like, all right, I did it, coach. I got all 3 sets of 50 unbroken. First off, your legs are going to be pretty shot after that because you're pushing past your capacity. But that's how adaptation occurs. So you're going to be pretty uncomfortable, and I'm going to tell you, get uncomfortable, stop being soft, let's get it. Once you've gotten your 3 sets of 50 unbroken, now we go back to the 20-pound ball. Let's come back to get it done in 30, 20.
Right.
Now shoot for unbroken. And it's like once you're at that point where now you used to be using a 20-pound ball for sets of 15 to 20. Now you're using a 20-pound ball for unbroken sets of 50.
Yeah.
The amount of capacity throughout your legs, both strength, muscular endurance wise, everything like that, that's an insane adaptation. And that is 100% achievable. But here's the catch. Whatever else happens in that workout when we're progressing through this, hey, we're doing wall balls and I want you to use a lighter weight and push for bigger reps. Me as the coach, I don't care how slow you have to go on your burpees to allow that to happen. Your goal today is to do your wall balls unbroken, and whatever pace you need to hold on your rower, whatever pace your run is, like we'll scale the run distance down a bit, we'll adjust the reps on the burpee a bit, but your goal is to crush yourself with that wall ball if that's your goal. And you can do that in class. Let's say we have a workout, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 of
Right.
wall balls and burpees.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're doing that workout, and you come to me, and I'm working with you about trying to get better at squatting, increase your squatting capacity.
Right.
All right, Sam, here's the jam, man. You're going to use that 14-pound ball. I want you to shoot. I want all of your wall ball sets unbroken, and you're going to do half the reps on the burpee so that you can kind of pace it a bit so you can focus on just crushing the wall ball. Like, we're going to put that little slant or bias in the workout so you can focus on that weakness and make it better.
So as the client, I'm listening to this. First of all, I'm noticing that you're not telling me which squat program I should use.
Exactly. Because that's not where it starts.
Right.
That's not where it starts. So once you hit a certain point, if we're talking about like, okay, we're actually going to add something.
Right.
Before I would ever add an extra program, something auxiliary on there, like, hey, you're going to spend more time either before or after class in the gym. Your training window goes from 60 minutes to 90 minutes. Ooh. Before you're going to make that jump, we're going to dial in the things we can in class first. Again, doing unbroken sets of 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, even if you cut the burpees in half on that workout, your intensity is going to be through the roof because you're holding on for dear life to that wall ball.
Right.
Like you're 27 reps into your set of 50, and you're questioning every life choice you've ever made that led to you asking me for help to get better at your squatting. And so that's what I'm looking for from that, is for you to like really push the intensity there and make that happen.
Okay.
If we do that over the course of, again, this can work. It's not just like, hey, do a wall ball progression. It's only with wall balls. We're adjusting and tweaking things so you can focus on any squatting movement that we're doing. So we're thinking, we're just using some examples of the wall ball so we can talk about it. But for those of you guys listening, I want you to open your minds and think big picture. Anything that we're doing squatting wise, I'm getting Sam to focus on his squatting. And we're using the example of the wall ball for like increasing your capacity. But if we're doing something with like a barbell, we're doing overhead squats, front squats, whatever it is in the workout. Let's say the workout is Nancy, right? We're doing 400-meter run, 15 overhead squats. It's the best benchmark at 95-65. And the goal for that workout is to try and have a load that you're like, in an ideal world, you're getting your first few rounds unbroken on the overhead squat, maybe breaking it up into 2 sets if we need, but no more than 2 sets on the overhead squat. What I would do for Sam, maybe for something loaded like that, is like, hey, maybe the last time we did something squatting, we lessened the load, had you go for like unbroken reps for capacity. This time, again, in the name of variance, hey, Sam, we're overhead squatting today. I want you to pick a weight that's challenging, and you're going to do 7. And I want the 7 unbroken, but I want it heavier.
Okay.
So maybe Sam's doing Nancy, and his version of Nancy to target his weakness is doing Nancy 7 reps at 115.
That's where my brain was too.
So I think and again, this isn't something that I'm putting out to class. Like, hey guys, anybody can lower the reps, up the weight, up the reps, lower the weight, do whatever you want.
So Kevin, are you saying you're providing a personalized version of the workout to an individual inside of a group class?
Oh,
what a novel concept.
I might be. And it doesn't take any more time out of my day.
Yeah.
It's just, and it provides way more value for you. It's just me having another conversation in class with Sam. And let's face it, Sam's a nerd. I have many conversations with Sam in class. But it's allowing us to take the workout. And we know this with scaling when we talk about coaching. It's like, hey, you have the workout on the board isn't necessarily what everyone in class is going to be doing. The workout on the board is the idea. It's the concept of what we're looking for from that day.
The starting point.
Yep, that's the starting point. And then if you're coaching good classes, you're kind of slanting things a little bit one way or the other to meet people where they're at.
Right.
Right.
And the inverse of that for anyone who's listening who's an athlete is if your coach is not providing you with individualized considerations based on the starting point that is the workout on the board, they are not coaching. Yeah. Period. Full stop.
Yeah. End rant.
End rant.
So again, opening our brains up to like, you can modify and adjust different things to target Sam's goal of getting better at his squatting. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to optimize that as much as we can. We're going to like squeeze every last ounce of potential out of that method.
Yeah.
And once Sam is like, all right, I'm fucking crushed. Every time there's a squatting workout in class, I'm the first one finishing. If you're a gym that tracks scores, I'm the top name on the leaderboard. Like, I'm crushing all this squatting stuff, but I still want more. Then you and I sit down and we have a conversation, and I say, all right, Sam, I understand, like, you're smashing it. You've done everything I've asked of you, and you are crushing your squats now.
Yeah.
And I've provided you so much value that you're like, Kevin, I want more. I want to do this. So then the question is, before I tack on extra stuff, like, hey, you're going to go from 60 minutes of training to 90. The question is, what is your overall goal with this?
Right.
And if you're like, hey, this has to be a very serious and legitimate and honest conversation, because there are people that, you know, they say they're like, I'm going to compete in CrossFit, but then you watch and their actions tell a different story.
Yeah.
If you've been in CrossFit for a while, you probably know these people, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like, you can see it, right? They're like, I'm going to go to the CrossFit Games. And then you watch them like half-ass 3 workouts. They're in the gym for 6 hours. 3 of that is them scrolling on their phone and using a Hypervolt for some reason. And then they like just down a protein shake and they're like, Games athlete.
Yeah.
Not quite. And so you and I would have to sit down and have an honest conversation. What are your goals? If you were legitimately, honestly, like, I want to compete in CrossFit at a high level, and that's the ultimate goal. Awesome. We can have that conversation. Here's what it's going to take. This is everything that you're going to need to do to get where you want to go. And once I've laid out, this is the roadmap, I say, do you really want to take that road? This is what the journey is going to look like. It's going to look exactly like this. To take Sam from where he is now to go into the CrossFit Games. Hey, guess what? This road is going to be 8 years, Sam. Yeah. And it's going to require 3 hours of training per day, broken up and looking like this. And you're going to need this much sleep, this much food. This is what the path looks like.
Yeah.
Are you still interested?
Yeah.
And most people are going to be like, you know, man, Weekend Warrior sounds a lot better. Those local comps sound so much more fun. And that's fantastic. Sometimes a hard dose of reality. Sometimes a hard dose of reality is what you need to be like, oh, okay. Yeah. But so when we'd have that honest conversation, and you're like, yep, nope. Like, I still want to compete and do the thing. And maybe it is, I want to compete in the low competitions, but I want to train more. Yeah. Okay. Do you have the time in your day to train extra? Whether that's, 1 day, 2 days, 5 days a week, whatever it is, do you have the time in your life schedule to go from 60 minutes of training to 90 minutes? Yep. Right. Easy day. No problem. Cool. Check. Do you have the kind of lifestyle that's going to allow you to go from sleeping 7 hours a night to 9 hours a night? Ooh, maybe not. Maybe on like the weekends. Okay. So instead of maybe training 90 minutes a day, 5 days a week, maybe do 2 days, 1 or 2 days where you do an extra session. Yeah. Again, there's a lot of variability with this, but before we start layering on more parts, I'd be like, let's crush that one piece, get everything we can out of the kind of biasing class programming to Sam's goals. And then we have a really honest conversation of what does it look like going forward if you still want more? Because guess what? You can keep that train rolling. Instead of stopping it like, hey, Sam can repeat sets of 50. Let's make it so Sam can repeat sets of 75 wall balls. Make it so he can repeat sets of 100. Right. Like,
pretty soon he's got an unbroken Karen.
Pretty soon he's got an unbroken Karen. Oh, I was the other day, I was like, I don't know if you've seen this on Instagram, Travis Mayer. Do you know who that is?
I know who he is.
Okay. So Travis Mayer did an unbroken Karen with a 30-pound ball.
No.
Yeah. And I sat there, I was like,
My quads locked up
oh,
just thinking about that.
oh. And so I sat there, I'm like, I don't care who you are. I don't care what, like, doing an unbroken Karen with a 30
Mhm.
pound wall ball to a
That's
10
next
foot
level
target
capacity.
that's more impressive than a 300-pound snatch. I said what I said, full
Hmm.
period, end stop.
Yeah.
Nope. And if you don't think so, if you're like an unbroken
Way
Karen with a
more
30,
people have a 300-pound snatch than could
uh,
do an unbroken
again,
Karen with a 30-pound
not
wall ball.
not that a 300-pound snatch isn't impressive, but I'm
Not at
saying
all.
if I watch someone snatch 300 pounds and I watch someone else do an unbroken Karen with a 30-pound wall ball, the 30-pound wall ball dude is the one that wins the competition. I'm sorry.
Right?
He's fitter. He's better than you and your 300-pound snatch. I'm sorry, but it is what it
It's
is.
like a 500, like how many jabronis have a 500 or 600-pound deadlift? And you'd look at that and be like,
Austin.
elite. Like, oh yeah, like here's a great example. Lane Norton, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Lane
Yep.
Norton, fucking cat. Lane Norton is a like a nationally ranked powerlifter. I believe he's in the middle of like a competition,
I think
and
he won.
I he might have. I haven't caught up on social media. Like I'm in a weird place with social media. So
That's okay. Delete all of
he's
it.
he's a dude who's got like a
Yeah.
huge bench and a huge snatch and or not snatch, a huge bench, a huge deadlift, a huge squat.
Yep.
He is I he might be able to like sheer will it, like get through Karen unbroken with 30. I would be really impressive if he didn't. I would be really impressed if he didn't stop, like in
Yeah.
the middle, because
Yeah.
the aerobic capacity
Yeah.
required,
It's
and
I don't think
that's
it
it. It's entirely fucking cat. It's entirely that is
your
it's aerobic
aerobic
capacity,
capacity and
muscle
your
endurance, lactate
ability.
threshold.
I say your ability to flush lactate out of your legs. You gotta be flushing that stuff. I don't know
Mm.
where it's going, but my God.
it's
um
it's going to your ankles. That's why all
it's
CrossFitters wear really really high socks, is to hide the
yeah,
fact that the ankles go poof.
yeah, pretty much. It's where I store all the waste buildup from a workout. Um but yeah, it's you can continue to again move the needle for Sam or
Mm.
for your hypothetical athlete within the confines of class. You just have
Yeah,
to understand the programming.
yeah.
Two, understand how to bias
Mm-hmm.
things at a general perspective. Like here's how you would bias something for squatting strength versus squatting capacity,
Yeah,
and then how to bias it appropriately for your athlete.
yeah,
So you need to know your athletes well. You need to understand the programming. You need to understand how to bias. If you have got
yeah.
all those three things, you can take athletes in class, even if they're like, I want to be a competitor. Fantastic. But you can't put the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
Trust me, because I put the fucking cart before the horse. I did that for so many years.
There was no cart. It was all
There was no
horse. It was an
there was no
imaginary cart
the cart was on fire rolling down the hill off the cliff is what was
in the
happening
opposite direction.
in the opposite direction. Oh, so go ahead.
Well, so
I think I beat that to death with the like this is the progression of how I'd go about it. So if
well,
you're my client, go ahead.
well,
Ask your
well, and
next
again, I mean,
question.
we've been yakking about this for 50 minutes. I mean, we can.
Yeah.
I believe you've hit a couple. I keep thinking of that bit from Billy Madison, where it's like, nowhere in that rambling, incoherent answer did you come even close to something that was correct. I
Yeah.
award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Yep.
So, except you actually did answer a bunch of things. So, the thing that I think can be taken away from all of this is that there's spectrums in terms
Mm-hmm.
of how programming can be approached. On one side of the spectrum is something like Mayhem.
Mm-hmm.
Mayhem doesn't know who you are.
Nope.
They have no idea you as the individual, your
Yeah.
strengths and weaknesses. They don't know what you do normally, so they assume you do nothing. And they're going to provide you a template, right?
They also don't know how much volume you can tolerate
Same thing.
because
Like they don't know.
well, yeah, it's pick any mayhem proven
Right.
misfit. CompTrain, insert your programming company here. It's just a template program. And when I say template, it's like,
it's a template human is what they're talking about. It's an avatar.
They've created an avatar of, because they all have different tiers, open semifinals games, whatever it is. They've all got different tiers, and the program is like, okay, this is the template for the, average Joe Schmo avatar of an open level athlete. And this is a avatar of a semifinals level athlete. And this is the avatar for a games level athlete.
Yes.
And they're programming for that person.
Right. That imaginary person. This person doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Right.
Nope.
And so on one side is like a Mayhem or a CompTrain or whoever, right? On the other side is your coach. And maybe this coach is an avatar coach because your coach doesn't do what Kevin described. Mm-hmm. But the point is it's incredibly personalized. And because it's incredibly personalized, so you might think you're not getting specialized programming because you're just going and doing the workout of the day. Mm-hmm. The dirty little secret in CrossFit, and the reason that the average membership is $200, a month for unlimited classes, is not that you're not paying that because the facilities are that much cleaner, though they should be. If by the way, if your bathrooms don't look like someone would want to pay $200 to take a dump there, you should clean your bathrooms. Mm-hmm. You're paying for individualized coaching in a group environment. And for the coach who is at the front of the room and doing all these things to have the knowledge and experience to be able to do exactly what Kevin said, understand the workout, understand the individual in class for as many individuals as there are, be able to deviate from the understanding of the workout in a manner that is specific to an individual, and then to be able to repeat that across as many individuals who are in the class. Mm-hmm. That's very difficult to do. And you can do it to varying levels, but a coach who can execute on that on a very high level is delivering a level of value that is not present essentially anywhere else in the fitness community.
Nope.
And that's a good thing for us as coaches and clients to be mindful of, right? And if that's happening, you maybe never need a customized program. You might, you're going to get personalized considerations in work that is hopefully sufficiently varied and, appropriate to across, multiple weeks or months or whatever, in terms of not over volumized or biasing one way or the other. And so I think, this is a great place to bring this up. Sam Hornstein. I had a great talk with Sam Hornstein, who's the now owner of CrossFit One Nation in Needham. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about the prevalence of certain programming models and the number of affiliates who associate as we're a Mayhem gym or whatever, as an example. And he was part of an affiliate roundtable where they were discussing, in this particular case, it was CrossFit Affiliate Programming, CAP. And so one of the comments that was made was, because of the volume of work, the difference in volume of work between something like a Mayhem or a CompTrain and CAP, they were like, we feel like we're a little bit more cookie cutter. Someone made a comment, we feel like we're a little bit more cookie cutter with CAP. We have to follow what they're saying. And his argument was, no, if there's less to do, you've got to bring more of the coach has got to bring more to the table.
You got to bring more value. You got to step up to the fucking plate,
Exactly.
Hey guys, class workout today is Annie, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, double under sit-ups, takes 6 minutes.
Yeah. And so as a coach, you've got to bring it. Now
you have to bring it.
The problem is, and he said this thing, and I've been thinking about it for a week.
Oh God, he's going to ruin my entire month. I'm going to think about it for a year.
We're going to end up doing an entire podcast about it.
Okay, amazing.
Which I say here at the end of the hour. He said members don't understand that. Members confuse coaching with programming. And I was like, oh,
oh.
And
You
like,
just, oh man.
because, and like, so
Yeah.
for coaches, like if you're a coach who does what we do,
Yep.
where someone gives you a 6-minute workout and a 60-minute time frame, and they're like, go, like coming up in the environment that we did and being educated the way we did, that is not an intimidating thing. And you understand that that's totally possible. And some of the best coaches in the world can deliver an incredible experience and amount of value in the 54 minutes leading up to that 6-minute workout, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Members don't know that it was a 6-minute workout and the coach invented 54 minutes of awesomeness, right?
Yep.
Versus the person who follows, and we keep saying mayhem. I don't want to throw them under the bus. I have no affiliation in any way, and they don't know we exist, but I'm going to be as respectful as possible. X programming. Like the coach who does X programming and they have a scripted warm-up and a scripted progression and a scripted strength and a scripted break and like
scripted accessory
and Metcon, all the person who's in that class doesn't understand that what that coach presented was scripted versus written custom for that class. And so when clients look at what's on the whiteboard, they take what's on the whiteboard and what is presented by the coach to be the same thing. They confuse programming with coaching when in fact they're, one is the, how do I want to say this? One is the meal, right? One is the concept of dinner, and the other one is a given chef who chooses to give you whatever dinner he comes up with, or who takes a Chef Boyardee box dinner and then heats it up and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's I'd say with your food analogy, it's the difference between like going to a restaurant and you have a preset menu, this is what we're doing, versus like having a personal chef where you're like, this is what I want, and they give it to you.
Or maybe even you don't even have to tell the chef. They're like, I'm going to assess what you need.
Yeah. We're talking like next level personal chef where like Sam walks in the room and they go, you walked in, your vibe's a little bit off. You want mac and cheese. All right.
Right.
And they make you the best damn mac and cheese in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
So we really should do a whole podcast on that, and shout out.
We should.
Yeah.
Easy day.
Shout out Sam Hornstein for breaking my brain with that one.
Can we get Sam to hop on?
I don't see why not. I'll text him right now. 1 second.
Amazing. Tell him Max can get on the podcast as well. His son. But that's a really interesting, because like it's 100% true, and but also people like to kind of flip flop that when you have your athletes looking at the whiteboard or like on the app, the website, however you deliver your programming to people, they're looking at it and they go, it's Annie. It's just sit-ups and double unders. Like I can do that at home.
It's just
stupid. It's just Annie, and she can fuck yourself up with Annie. Gosh.
God.
If you think it's just Annie, go faster. But they're like, it's just this. The run a 5K day, everyone's favorite day in programming, right? Run a 5K. Nobody shows up for run a 5K day. And it's so frustrating. If you're at a good affiliate where the coaches do a really good job, people do show up for run a 5K day, and they will, because they know that regardless of what you've built up the trust of, regardless what the workout is, the coach is going to deliver a baller class because they've taken the idea of this is the workout for the day, and they've constructed everything else that goes around it to be fun, bring value. And the run a 5K day is no different. We're running a 5K. Awesome. That's 25 minutes of your class.
Yep. 20 to 30 minutes total.
Yep. There's 30 other minutes of fun stuff we can do.
Yeah.
The last time we had run a 5K day here, it's like, all right, we're running, so we got to warm things up. So I have like a little bit of kind of some dynamic, mostly calf prep, because that's what gets people the most, like, calf cramps up. They get like, foot arch cramps. So like doing some calf prep beforehand. And then I had in duct tape on the floor a tic-tac-toe grid. And I separated people into teams, and they had different colored bands. And they had to do like the shuttle sprint one, where it's like you run down, you drop your band, you come back, tag your partner, they go down, and you're trying to tic-tac-toe the board with your teammates. And it's 2 teams playing. And so, but you're getting people onto it. You're like, all right, guys, like you're playing against each other. You start to like get some trash talking going. I was like, physical violence is encouraged, like take people out, and so people, they're like messing with each other's bands. They're like taking a band and like throwing it away before they're part. They're having so much fun.
Yeah.
Just playing again. And, you take adults that have such stressful lives. You allow them to do that every once in a while. And oh my gosh, not every day you should play a game, but every once in a while, if you chuck something fun in there and you let people have fun with it, they're running, they're getting their heart rates up because they're sprinting their brains out trying to win this freaking tic-tac-toe game.
Yeah.
And so by the end, they're like, they're warm, they're gassed, they've had fun, they've high-fived. Let's go run a 5K. They go do it, come back, a little bit of stretching, cool down, whatever. Greatest day ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, and to get to that point where people will show up on a 5K day, you have had to, as a coach, you've had to lay so much good faith groundwork. And if nobody's showing up on 5K day, it tells you exactly how much room you have for improvement. All right. Well, obviously we could lose a lot of time talking about this. Let's put a button on this. Programs are fine. They're not necessary.
Not necessary.
And if you've got a coach who can deliver you individualized value, they're 100% not necessary and probably counterproductive. So find yourself a killer coach and a killer affiliate who has the capacity to do that, and you'll save time, money, frustration, and a whole bunch of other things.
And it'll jet stream your progress, because I've never known anybody that's like goes harder by themselves than they do in the group, like in class. So if I can give Sam something biased, be like, hey, Sam, you're going to do this. But then he's also in class with his friends. They're talking trash. You won't run the 490 second, whatever it is. They're talking smack. All of a sudden, Sam's not only getting his weakness work in, but his intensity is through the roof because he's in the group. That just jet streams his progress towards his goal without him having to spend any extra time. Because guess what? If you put more intention into the things you're doing, you need less training. You don't need as many training pieces if the training piece that you're doing has all the intention and focus and effort put into it.
I love that. I think that's a perfect bow to put on this, and well said. So if you're out there and you're paying too much for programming, stop doing that. Give Kevin a call.
100%.
And otherwise, we will. Hopefully, I'd love to get Sam on next week. So I texted him. I'll follow up with him. We'll try to find a time, and we can kind of go down this topic, difference between programming and coaching. Kevin, thank you for joining me down this incredibly awesome rabbit hole, and everyone who has been following along. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and go forth, be awesome.
Go forth and be awesome.
Amen. Peace.